Hello. I thought enough time had passed and it was probably a good idea to make an update video about my Stradivarius. As you can see, I took the chin rest off, which I think has improved the sound drastically. And the reason that I did this, I'm just sitting in bed at home. Oh yeah, I moved. I don't live in the bunk bed place anymore. That's another update. But I took the chin rest off because before that I discovered that this was a major breakthrough. This violin is a Baroque violin, which is very significant. This means that the chances of it being made in a factory in the 1800s or beyond is very low. By that point, Baroque necks on violins had fallen out of fashion. Everybody was replacing the necks on violins, including Stradivarius necks. And if someone was going to make a Baroque violin in the 1800s or beyond, it was a niche thing. Someone probably would have specifically wanted that, or maybe they were making a copy, I'm not sure. But even the copies, most of them had the modern violin neck. I know this is a Baroque neck because I measured it. It measures 127 millimeters, and the normal violin neck measures 130. Beyond that, the shape of it, if you want to look this up on your own, you can. The shape of it and the angle is different from a modern violin neck. This part, look at this part, and look at the angle and the length. So this was a major breakthrough that told me this definitely was not a factory violin. Another thing that I noticed was, and I hope the light on this can pick this up, but this fingerboard is not made of ebony. This fingerboard is stained, and there are a few places that you can, let's see if the camera will see the angle. Maybe this candle will help. Anyway, sorry. Professionalism. There are a few places. If you look at my Instagram account, you'll see this. There's a few places where the stain is a bit worn off, and you can tell that it's stained, is the point of what I'm saying. This is probably stained maple, which is what Stradivari used. He did not use ebony. Ebony was not the norm until after Stradivari was not around anymore. So that's another good clue. Again, the lighting, but we're going to try to get a close-up here of the purfling, which is almost, I'm an artist and I draw, and I know a lot about styles and handwritings. What I was going to say is it's almost like a handwriting, the way that it's applied. This camera's not very well. It's almost like a handwriting, and I analyzed pictures of the purfling on Stradivarius violins, and it very much matches the handwriting, in my opinion, as a professional artist who studied drawing, which is what I did before music. I'm relatively new to music and definitely new to the violin. I've only been playing violin for about 2 years, and before I got this, I had like the cheapest violin you could possibly have. I got it during the pandemic. It was like $40. They all went on sale because the schools were closed and no one was buying them. So I was like, oh, I'll buy a violin. I was playing guitar before, so I'm really more of a guitar player, and I'm definitely more of a visual artist than any of these things. So I guess I'm a bit of a noob, but hey, I learn things fast. Yes, this is not the original. This was replaced. I'm guessing maybe the last owner replaced it. That's definitely not the original fine tuner. That's the only one thing I know is definitely not original, replaced. The strings are metal strings. This is my mistake. When I opened the case, it had gut strings in there. They weren't on. The strings were all off, and they had some rolled up gut strings. I didn't even know what gut strings were. Oopsie, this is my bad. I made a mistake, and I just threw the gut strings away, and I got these metal strings put on because I thought they were just old strings that were kind of messed up. So whoever the mystery owner of this violin before me was playing it Baroque. The one thing I wish he had not done was clamp that chin rest onto this violin, because it did leave some residue. Oh wait, it's over here, sorry. Right there. It did leave some residue. I don't want to damage the violin. I try to gently remove some of the residue. There's still a little bit on there, which I'm hoping will just kind of naturally wear off over time with me playing it. Speaking of playing it, let's hear some notes. Again, I'm not an expert violin player. It just resonates for such a long time. One thing I found helpful was actually playing it like it was a little guitar. That kind of made me feel a little more comfortable with it. I'm still learning, and I'm never going to stop learning. I think it's one of those things where you have to spend your whole life learning it. Well, anyway, I'm trying to think, is there any other information I need to tell people about? But if you see the last video and this one, even with the bad microphone, I'm hoping that you can tell the difference from the chin rest being removed. It just felt like I was taking like crutches off. You know the part where Forrest Gump is running in the movie and his like leg braces just fall off and he's just running without them? It was kind of like that. Anyway, I'm just going to show a few shots of this for people that might. And I did watch a video, a luthier, I think his name was Lee, showed a lot of different shots of one of the Stradivarius violins that he visited in a museum, and commented about how different light shines differently on the varnish and gives it a different effect. And it's true. This one is looking this way because of the light in the camera. But I don't know. Is there anything else? I would like to have it x-rayed. Now that would be really, really good, because then we could find out if there's a nail in here, because Stradivarius did nail this part. Oh yeah, this where the neck's attached. The other strange thing about this violin is, look at the underside of the neck. It is varnished like a madman. Most violins on this part, even including Stradivarius violins, are not varnished. Like if you look at the Lady Blunt, I think the Messiah, but those two do have original necks. But like I said, I think there's only 7 that still have their original necks in the world, which makes this potentially very significant. There's only 7. Most of the necks are gone with the wind. They're gone. And we don't really know if he varnished the necks a lot, because it's kind of a mystery. It does make it a little bit not as flowy, but you know, in Baroque times, they did not use as much vibrato. They did use it. They did use vibrato, but not as much. I read a quote from Leopold Mozart, Mozart's father, who was a violin aficionado and expert, who said it looked like the people overusing vibrato had palsy. I'm kind of paraphrasing that. shaking around like they had palsy. So that was kind of the attitude when the Baroque period was going on. So maybe they just didn't care as much about being able to, wiggle around there as easily. I don't know. Like I said, in the 1800s, they chopped all the necks off and replaced them. Not this one, though. Anyway, none of this is 100% conclusive, but it's all very good. And it's strong evidence that if it isn't real, which I'm a believer, this is a historically significant violin and really old. So stay tuned for more updates as they happen. And thank you for politely listening.